Good Shabbos. As we approach Rosh Hashanah, it's appropriate that we start getting involved in the tshuva and the repentance process if we haven't been doing that until now. And one area is trying to build our character, to trying to improve on our character. It's not just actions that we have to be careful about. Those are extremely important. But sometimes when we stop doing something that's wrong or harmful, it becomes only temporary because we emphasize just the action, but we don't really get to the underlying problem that we really face. And the way to solve that is to really think about really what makes us tick. Maimonides talks about the responsibility of all of us to have good character traits and to go down the middle path, the golden mean, which he borrows from Aristotle. And he says in all types of character traits, you should always go down the middle path. And he includes ego, anger, being thrifty, many different areas of our character. But after he says you should go down the middle path, he seems to contradict himself a few paragraphs later, and he says that there's two areas that you shouldn't go down the middle path. You have to go to the extreme. And what are those two? Ego, to be humble. You should go to the extreme of humility. And anger. You should not have any anger at all. And really, just a few paragraphs before, he said very clearly that you should get angry sometimes. You do have to have some kind of an ego. You have to have self-esteem. You can't let people walk all over you. But here he says that we have to be completely humble. And I think this tension is really a reflection of a problem that we all have. On the one hand, we have to deal with other people. And if we're dealing with other people, we have to make sure that we take a stand and defend our own rights and, as I said, have self-esteem. If we want to have any authority in the workplace or within our family, we can't just let people do whatever they want to us. We have to show that we have confidence in ourselves. On the other hand, when you do have authority, when you do have, let's say, employees or people who are relying on you, your ego can really get you to a place where you're really doing things to satisfy your own needs rather than to make sure you're exerting authority in a positive way. And I think that's what Maimonides is talking about. And as an example of someone who has no ego is Moses. And the Torah tells us, "V'ish Moshe anav ma'od mikol adam asher al pnei adama." The man, Moses, was the most humble person in all of the land. And of course, Moses understood that he was not somebody who wasn't important. He realized that he was the greatest prophet. He was a legislator. He was a leader. He was a military officer. He fought wars. He faced Paro. He destroyed the army of the greatest empire in his time. So we know that Moshe didn't have false humility. He wasn't saying, I'm a nothing, I'm a nobody. Of course he realized he's a somebody. But the problem is when you have that feeling of authority, it gets to your head. And when it gets to your head, you end up becoming, and here's the other character trait, angry. Because anger, the way I understand it, is completely a product of your ego. If you didn't have an ego, if you didn't think of yourself as someone so important, you wouldn't get angry. What's there to be angry about? And actually, we see by Moshe as an example, he got angry at the Jewish people when it came time to hit the rock. And he showed that he said, Mamrim Hayisim, you're rebels, and he got upset with the Jewish people when they needed water after the death of Miriam. And for that, it seems, if you read the Torah, that he was punished. That because he got angry and he hit the rock, rather than speaking to the rock, he lost really his path in life because he wasn't taking his responsibility seriously enough that he realized that he can't let his own issues get in the way of how he's supposed to lead the Jewish people. And therefore that's why he was punished. And that's the one area which we have to be very careful, because we feel that we have to, let's say, have authority, whether it's an authority over children, over our in the workplace, or just in our relationship with other people. We end up making mistakes and not being able to distinguish between the authority and the confidence that we're supposed to have to be effective, and the feeling of ego, which is just driven by our own need for power and to be always correct and right and in charge. And therefore, I think what Maimonides is telling us is, yes, of course, you can't let people walk all over you. You have to have self-esteem. You have to have confidence. But when it comes to leadership, you have to have deep down within you a sense that it's really just all God-driven. You're really here for a purpose. It's not about you. So on the one hand, you have to feel that you have a confidence in what you are and what you could do. On the other hand, you have to make sure that you don't get carried away with it. And therefore, sometimes you have to push yourself to the other extreme. And you have to realize that it's not about you. And if it's not about you, then you're not going to get angry as much. And it's important, therefore, to control. Again, I think it's more important to control your character than to actually control the outbursts. Of course, in practice, the outburst is what counts. The fact that we yell or scream or argue with someone, of course, is a problem which creates divisiveness in society and families. But ultimately, what you really have to do is try to nip it in the bud. You have to make sure that what drives your anger is this ego. And you have to make sure that that ego is not something that you rationalize to say that, oh, I have to have authority and be in charge, and therefore take it to the extreme and get angry when it's inappropriate. But rather, we have to realize that ultimately, we're all here because God placed us in this world, and we're here to do a job. We're here to do what's right and correct in this world, and it's not about us. And I think if we have that sort of compartmentalization where on the one hand we have self-esteem, on the other hand we're able to negate ourselves to the degree where our life is there for the purpose of doing what our responsibility is in life. We're devoted to our families, we're devoted to our spouse, we're devoted to our community. Then if we have that attitude, we have the ability to move forward and to create unity in a family, in the community, amongst the Jewish people, amongst all human beings. And I think we'll all then have, hopefully, a happy and healthier new year to come. Good Shabbos.